Dear friends, clients, astrology lovers, followers, here is Olga once again, but this time not with the weekly horoscope, with analysis of the transit planetary aspects. This time, yeah, I promised to dedicate this video, to dedicate one of my videos to a very specific and extremely important subject, which will touch to the very important major astrological phenomena or event, the actually 2 eclipses of the month of August 2017. I hope that you will find in the information that I will give you, you will find something new that you don't know, or that you something different from what you may hear from other astrologers, from other resources online or something else. I always present my vision of the things, right? I'd like to remind you first of all that the new moon in Leo on the 23rd of July, gave the marked the beginning of a new lunar month, as any new moon does. But also this new moon in Leo on the 23rd of July opened a decisive season, fatal or fateful. I'm not sure about the real meaning of this word in English, because in Russian it doesn't have a pejorative sense, meaning, fatal. It's not negative. It means that something that will be difficult to change. The consequences of the choices and the events will be difficult to, or even impossible to change. That's why I'm not sure if fatal or fateful is rather pejorative. Decisive season. So the lunar month that began on the July 23rd opened the decisive season of eclipses on the Leo Aquarius axis. All of us, we know that. The partial lunar eclipse will take place on August 7th, and the total solar eclipse will occur on August 21st. But, in fact, the effect of both eclipses is felt during 1 month and a half, or even 2 months before the exact date of the first eclipse, and about during 1 month after the second eclipse. And this is precisely during this period of time between the 2 eclipses, and 1 month before the first and 1 month after the second, that considerable changes begin to occur in our lives and our affairs. All of us, we know also, I hope, that the period between the 2 eclipses is a unique moment for the positive transformation of our destiny. There is a chance to greatly influence the important areas of our lives through our own efforts. What do we need for that? First of all, of course, we need some theoretical, technical knowledge about what is an eclipse, the dates of the eclipses of a certain particular year. How is it formed? Why doesn't it happen? What for? And how it can influence you, what impact it can have on you, depending on what aspect the planets of the eclipse, the sun and the moon, form with your personal planets of your personal birth chart, and also which axis of the houses of your horoscope, of your birth chart, are activated by the eclipse, because the eclipse can be, of course, projected to a specific particular house, or rather the axis of houses of your chart. I'll get back to this a little bit later. After that, we need a firm and sure decision that you want to live a change, confidence and passionate and positive desire, of course, to go through changes. Powerful message, energetical message, and promise, a promise maybe, not to our others, to ourselves first of all, right? And if all these parameters, you know, the knowledge about the astrological side of the eclipse, decision, confidence, desire, promise, if all these parameters are gathered together and worked out in the correct way, they apply to our behavior, to the strategy of our behavior. I don't know how to say it another way. If you respect all these parameters, what we can hope for is the specific, but major changes, and they will affect the 18 years and a half to come. Not only 1 month, not only 6 months, and 6 months until the next couple of eclipses, but 18 years and a half. And these changes will be of a fatal, decisive character. Fatal without being pejorative, okay? And of course, the corridor between the two eclipses, the lunar and the solar, lasts for 2 weeks. About all of us, we know that. The solar eclipse occur at the new moon and the lunar at the full moon. The maximum number of eclipses per year is 5 or 6. Normally, there are like 2 couples within the period of, in 6 months we have the next couple, but it can happen that we have the third couple, just it falls for the end of the calendar year. But most often we have 2 couples, so 4. Why is the corridor of the eclipses decisive or fatal? Because, eclipses occur each 6 months, but the sun and the moon being at a certain sign of a zodiac or in a certain axis of the zodiac and at a certain degree of these signs, if you talk about an axis, at the time of the eclipse, will return to this position in the same degree of the signs, if you talk about this lunar eclipse opposition sun-moon, only in 18 years and a half. Therefore, the events that are going to happen during the eclipses period are fatal by their nature, regardless of whether you know about it or not. Of course, it's better to know, especially which house of your horoscope, of your birth chart, is activated. In any case, all our thoughts, desires, and actions will be printed in the space and environment, energetically speaking, and will affect your destiny, our destiny in the future. Let's focus on the axis Aquarius, Leo Aquarius. So, under the influence of the eclipses on the axis Leo Aquarius in July and August, we will have to face such events and processes, the essence of which will concern the restoration of balance in everything related to the values of the polar signs of the zodiac, of the axis, of course. That's the essence of all important events that happen to us, or the changes the changes and lifestyle choices that we make in July, August will be related to the correlation of the following polarities. We talk about the polarities that are represented by the axis. Remember the video on the nodes when I talk about the axis of the nodes? Each axis has its polarities represented by the 2 opposite signs. So what are these polarities of the axis Leo Aquarius? Power, Leo, and freedom, Aquarius. Love, Leo, and ability to give to others the right to be different, Aquarius. Aquarius also is capable to love. Aquarius loves, but not the same way. The love of Aquarius is a universal love, cosmic. Aquarius loves everybody, all people, the entire world in the same way. Leo loves in an egoistic way. He loves first of all himself, but if he loves the partner, he loves him like Leo, in a little bit selfish way. So I don't mean that the Aquarius doesn't love. He loves. The realization of one's own unique potential, Leo, and dependence on the opinion of others, Aquarius. Self-expression, Leo, and the ability to cooperate, Aquarius. Our need of control and of maintenance of the status quo on one hand, and the ability, Leo, the ability to change the perception of everything new, unusual, the renouncement from, I hope, frames, these models, boxes that limit us. On the other hand, Aquarius. The need for love, approval and recognition, Leo. The ability to give all of that to others, Aquarius. The ability to build and to control our life at a very high level, Leo, and the sensitivity to the influence of uncontrollable external circumstances, Aquarius. Maybe the last one, the need for a better standard of living and the ability to obtain the corresponding income from the profession of our vocation, Leo, Aquarius. These are like the principles, the basic characteristics of the axis Leo Aquarius. So what happens in the real life on the external level, practical level, not theory? We don't talk about theory now. The effect of the eclipses will be manifested through important events and changes in everything related to the issues of cooperation and associations with groups and collectives, of issues of self-expression, social activities, of the revelation of our accomplishments to the entourage, I think it's a French word used in English, issues of the relations with relatives, particularly children, in everything, so changes in everything related to the issues, to the questions of income coming from our properties, from real estate, and questions of career and social status. So, to be simpler, on one hand, the influence of eclipses that touches July, touching July and August, can give a powerful impulse to the development and to the transition to higher levels in the areas that have been listed. On one hand, changes in these areas. On the other hand, the effect of the eclipses will be manifested in the fact that any distortion and violation of balance in the polarities, in the polar realities of the axis Leo Aquarius mentioned above, can cause difficult changes that will require from us to restore the lost balance. The goal here to survive the eclipse is to restore the balance between the two polar realities of the axis Leo Aquarius. And of course, if you want to change our lives, the best time for this is the period between the two eclipses, the corridor. Because these days, the 2 weeks, carry a powerful impulse that can lead to unexpected changes. It's better to be ready to accept them or even to provoke them, right? Under the influences of these energies, of the corridor of eclipses, we could experience events that will take us out from the comfort zone if we resist to the changes, right? Which would force us to look at the circumstances with a fresh look, to start doing something new or to end up with something old. Actually, the lunar eclipse suggests us, help us to end up with something old, and the solar eclipse gives a chance to open the new door towards new future. Let's talk more in details about each eclipse. The partial lunar eclipse will take place on August 2:10 p.m. New York time. Check your zone, your area. at the time of the eclipse in your area. So what happens here? The sun will be in Leo, 15.25 degree, in opposition to the moon in Aquarius, in, of course, 15.25 of Aquarius, so the full moon, opposition sun, moon. At the same time, the south lunar node in 24.11 of Aquarius, close to the moon, almost in conjunction. That's why I talk about an eclipse. And the northern lunar node in 24.11 of Leo. We have the full moon and the new moon every month, but the eclipses happen only twice, let's say twice per year, because the sun and the moon forms conjunctions with the nodes only twice per year. The conjunction with the nodes during the full and the new moon. That's why we have, at this moment we have eclipses. I hope that it's technically for all of you it's clear how the eclipses are formed. What is curious also is that the lunar eclipse of 7th of August occurs in the on the zodiacal axis Leo Aquarius as the previous lunar eclipse of February 2017. The balance of the elements of fire and air, the sun in Leo and the moon in Aquarius, forms harmonious aspects with Jupiter in Libra and Saturn in Sagittarius, which gives hope of a favorable outcome of our affairs. Only harmonious aspects for the lunar eclipse. The lunar eclipse marks an important turning point, proposing to forget the disappointments of the past and to enter boldly into a new phase of our life. They are precisely the lunar eclipses which lead to sudden and unforeseen changes, whether it happens without our desire or because we have decided so. We must not regret, of course, what is going on in our life, the changes, because this is the moment when the path opens up to the new. But especially during the lunar eclipse, that we say goodbye to old situations that don't work anymore. And also, the changes are not necessarily going to take place in August. They can happen 6-8 weeks before the eclipse or during the next 6 weeks, but especially 6 months until the next couple of the eclipses. Now, the signs which will feel more than other signs the impact of the eclipses are, of course, the fixed signs: Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, and Scorpio. You have to check if in your birth chart your personal planets, Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, or the angles ascendant, descendant, MC, IC of your horoscope are in these 4 signs, but from the 10th to the 22nd degree. And yes, as I said, the eclipses of the moon show the results. They help to draw conclusions. This is the time to get rid of the relationships that are not longer working, to give up to the bad habits, stop smoking, for example, or say goodbye, give up to what annoys us, what hinders us. In other words, to free ourselves from the past. And we may receive some signs, some hints from absolute, yes, what to do and how to do. We have to be open because the portal opens during the corridor of eclipses. Yes, I mentioned the harmonious aspects of the Sun and the Moon with Jupiter and Saturn, which fosters positive changes. Jupiter promises luck and Saturn gives wisdom and the vision of the perspectives. For some people, the global influence could be this global influence could be manifested in the liberation of oppressive circumstances, for example. In the spiritual sense, the lunar eclipse suggests to take a look at ourselves from the side and to determine what needs to be improved in our personalities. The Sun in Leo gives a creative impulse, and the Moon in Aquarius calls to correlate our desires and intentions with the global image of reality in order to implement our plans for the benefit of ourselves and society. What should be done? What can be done during the day of the lunar eclipse? Of course, the lunar eclipse opens the portal between the old and the new. Old patterns and habits that no longer serve you will be swept away, leaving space for a new cycle. This is, of course, a good time for magic because the effect of all our actions is intensified. Our actions are intensified. The lunar eclipse is a particularly powerful full moon. Yes, this is the full moon. All of us, we understand that. The position Sun-Moon. And it's extremely, any full moon is powerful, but especially the full moon of the eclipse. So we can perform rituals to attract love, to attract money, rituals that activate the fulfillment of our wishes. When I say magics, I don't talk about black magic, of course. We talk about attraction, the law of attraction, the visualization of our dreams and goals for the future. These rituals are innocent in the sense that they don't harm anybody, but they're extremely powerful, and they will have the effect. They will be the result. And also the clairvoyance psychic sessions will give precise results because the veil between the worlds becomes very thin. So now what about the solar eclipse? The solar eclipse in 2 weeks, right? During the new moon on the 21st of August and 2:30 p.m. New York time. The moon and the sun in conjunction, the new moon, in 28.52 degrees of Leo, and of course the northern lunar node in 24.13 of Leo conjunction. The main theme of the eclipse, the main themes, love and creativity, I would say, these two, the key words for Leo. And in these two spheres, we could see the renewal. We can live, not only see the renewal, we can live the renewal, even if until now some of us maybe lived obstacles and difficulties in love. Now we look to the future. These people, even though they went through some difficult moments in love, they will look to the future with optimism. It's a positive moment, the solar eclipse, for the healing of broken hearts, for the liberation of what we no longer need. Well, we'll liberate from what we don't need anymore during the lunar eclipse, and the solar eclipse give us the opportunity to open new doors. And once again here, the most likely the biggest impact of the eclipse will be felt by people who born under the fixed signs Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus. Check your Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus and Mars and the angular points. They should be in the from 27th to the 29th degree of these 4 fixed signs. Yes, what about the aspect that the solar eclipse formed with other planets? Here we have 2 blocks of aspects, harmonious and difficult. So in general, the energy of the solar eclipse is positive. It will bring more pleasure, more love, more creativity, and more courage, because the sun and moon in Leo encourage us to become the leader, to stand out in the crowd and to attract attention. And yes, the aspects with other planets. The solar eclipse is in conjunction with Mars. It's still in the orb of the conjunction with Mars, which energy gives the courage to decide for doing something where we lacked the courage before. Also, the conjunction Sun-Moon during the eclipse forms a trine with Uranus in Aries and a trine with Saturn in Sagittarius. And these are aspects of success and harmony. Uranus gives the desire to be free and to move forward with courage. Maybe we will even decide to try something new or even to take risks. Saturn also proposes to act, but it can impose limits if we decide to move forward without a carefully elaborated plan. But in any case, it's a trine, so it's positive. Trine conjunction Moon, Sun in trine to Saturn. This aspect, the trine of Saturn with the conjunction Sun Moon, it's a safety and protection aspect, the aspect of safety and protection, that encourages us to put in place a plan before we act, before to act. So the trines with the Saturn and Uranus favor the acceptance of the bold changes that will be carried out in a responsible and careful manner at the same time. So this, yes, between Saturn and Jupiter there is a sextile, 60 degrees, which will bring optimism, reinforced by a certain dose of caution. So gorgeous, harmonious aspects between the conjunction Sun Moon and conjunction with Mars, trine Saturn, trine Uranus, and sextile Uranus Saturn. But we also find difficult aspects that are formed during the solar eclipse. Jupiter in Libra forms a square with Pluto in Capricorn and square with the Venus in Cancer. In addition, we see the formation of the square Venus-Uranus, which is in its orb. But all these squares add dynamics to the context of the solar eclipse. Most likely, the planetary influences will find their manifestation in the field of personal relationships. Many of us could expect sudden changes in partnership relationships, the consequences of which will be felt during a long period of time in the future. The problems of management, of power, and the theme, us against them, all these becomes relevant at the end of August and during the autumn months. So as I said, during the solar eclipse we have harmonious and difficult aspects with other planets. And we consider in astrology that it's rather constructive when there is a balance of harmonious and difficult planetary interactions, planetary aspect. It applies also to your birth chart. If you have only trines and sextiles, it's not constructive. It's good, but it's not constructive. Why? Because in this case, if you have both harmonious and difficult aspects in your chart, or in the case of the context, in the case of the analysis of the upcoming eclipse, the possibilities of success are symbolized by the harmonious aspects, in our case the trines, and they are reinforced by the desire to act, which is created by the difficult aspects. Oppositions and squares, in our case squares, they push us towards finding the solution of an issue, of a problem. So it can be only constructive. So what should be done during the day of the solar eclipse, which will bring the wave of fresh energy, and this new energy will open a new chapter of our lives, new chapters. So we have to be on the wave of this energy and to use it to our advantage. Once again, imagine this is the conjunction Sun-Moon. This is the new moon. And during any new moon, we have to make plans for the upcoming lunar months. Since this is the new moon that corresponds with the solar eclipse, we plan not only the next lunar month, but also this next 6 months until the next solar eclipse, and we plan our next 18 years and a half for the reasons that I explained in the beginning of this video. So the day of the new moon that corresponds to the solar eclipse is charged with a powerful energy. So the magic, once again, in the good sense of word, magic rituals will bring excellent results. This is, of course, the ideal time to formulate our dreams and desires and write them down on paper, at least that. Because our thoughts will be like seeds, and if we sow them on the day of the solar eclipse, they will receive a powerful growth stimulant. And what is likely to happen is that the fulfillment of our wishes will rock our world. Sometimes dreams come true. if the dream is formulated during the eclipse. Yes, I'm pretty sure about that. And maybe the most important advice of any astrologer about what to do during the solar eclipse is, the day of the exact eclipse and 3 days before and 3 days after the exact date. So it's recommended not to make important decisions. It's better to postpone important meetings, conferences, negotiations, travels, major purchases, financial transactions. It's better to spend the time, with the family, relaxed atmosphere. And a very small last part for those who are familiar with with the notions of astrology, the basics. What is extremely important to know, to understand, is not only whether the sun and the moon that participate in the eclipses, when they are in the opposition during the full moon, which corresponds to the lunar eclipse, and when they are in conjunction, which correspond to the new moon and to the solar eclipse, whether the sun and the moon form conjunctions, especially conjunction with your planets, personal planets of your chart, and the angles. This is extremely important, yes, but not only this. We have to, for me, what is the most important is to compare, to project the chart of both eclipses to your birth chart, to see which axis of the houses in your personal birth chart are activated by the eclipses. I don't talk here about the symbolic house. For example, if your sun sign is Leo, your symbolic, counting from the first house, which is Leo, the symbolic 7th house was in Aquarius. So in this case, your first house is activated during the solar eclipse, and your axis first 7th house is activated during the lunar eclipse, right? But what about if your rising sign is Scorpio? The real house which will be activated by the eclipses is not the first, the first or the 7th house. The 4th, I think, yes, check the real house. Where does the eclipse project the position of the sun and the moon? I give you an example. Sorry. You remember the degrees, right? The solar, the lunar eclipse occurs in the 15th degree of Leo and Aquarius, and the solar in almost 29th degree of Leo. Imagine if your real ascendant, depending on your time of birth, is, let's say, in the 6th degree of Aquarius. That means that the degree of your 7th house, the cusp of the descendant of the 7th house is in the 6th degree of Leo. Logic, right? So that means that both eclipses are projected to your real 7th house, not symbolic, because your real ascendant is in Aquarius, even though you're born, let's say, in November and you are Scorpio. Me, I focus mostly on the real houses, not symbolic. If we talk about some personalized predictions that are using the eclipses. So that means that in the upcoming months and 6 months, and even during the next 18 years and a half, the person will experience most probably major changes in her partnership relationships. 7th house. If the person is married, she can expect some unforeseen sudden changes, not obligatory a divorce, of course, because for that we need to have confirmations from other predictive techniques, in order to predict a divorce. But major changes anyway. Something will shake up your marriage. If the person is single, it's very probable that she will meet the future love partner, life partner. If she met the person already, maybe she may see the concretization, yes, the solidification of the relationship with this person, because both eclipses, especially the solar conjunction moon sun, the both eclipses are projected to her real, not symbolic, 7th house. The axis, the 1st and the 7th house. I hope that you found this information useful. Happy eclipses, stay wise, use the right strategy or behavior, as I always say, and talk to you very soon. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for being here. Goodbye.